Yeah. Nighttime I see diamonds in the sky. Daytime I see sunlight shining bright. If I'm alive, how can I not testify of your love, your love, your love? Yeah. Your love, your love, your love.
Saying there's someone that didn't have a privilege before, and now you're trying to get them to accept, to want to accept these privileges. So then it says, sit them down, to put into practice, to sit them down, and they don't have a privilege. Their goals are not to accept the privilege, so to help them, to get them to want to accept these privileges, remember, to tell them to remember what they vowed to Jehovah. And it's like, well, that's out of context, because I never vowed that. And that's what I'm saying. In this book, it says, remember, it shows that you serve Jehovah from now on. It says, remember that you are not dedicated to a human, or organization, or a work. You dedicated your life to Jehovah. And being a ministry servant, that's a work. If I get baptized, I'm dedicating myself to Jehovah. I'm not dedicating myself to joining. If that comes in the future, and God has spiritually blessed me with that ability to teach and to help, then I would be like join leadership in doing that. But it's like that verse is taken out of context, and there's other verses that are posted that is kind of like.
So do you think if that?
One quick thing real here, because this is why the child abuse is running rampant. You're putting people in positions because you're looking at their hours. If I want to be an elder, only thing I got to do is go in, act like I'm reading my Bible, make them sure I'm getting my hours. And that's the most important thing, because if I have my hours, that already makes me eligible, you know? If I was reading my Bible and coming to the meetings and commenting, and I just realized how much they focus on commenting. They want to see that you're commenting. If you're not commenting when they're going around passing the mic around, reading the paragraphs from the pamphlets, that's a bad thing. And that is just crazy to even think about. But you're putting people in position, and that's how these elders are raping these children and all this child molesting, and that's how they're hiding it. And it's just a bad situation, man.
Someone has a potential to be useful.
Yeah, so if I see a brother in the congregation that's disengaged, I might go encourage him and say, "Hey, how's it going? What do you need?"
That's what it's talking about.
But it's just talking about. I wouldn't go to him and say, "Hey, you vowed." And if we need people in the congregation to become ministry servants, and I see someone that's disengaged, I want to say, "Well, hey, you vowed to do this, so remember that you should be learning and building yourself up to do this." That's not truthful.
And you know, you're right that to tell someone in that way is not a kindness.
Yeah.
But to help someone, and we think about Jehovah. The Bible describes him as love. God is love, and we want to imitate him, and we don't want anyone to treat us badly.
Exactly.
So we're not going to treat anyone else badly. And when we do talk to individuals in the congregation and encourage them to reach out, those are people that have been in the congregation, that are part of the congregation. We know them, and so we know what potential they have. They probably are good teachers, but they're disengaged. They're not really thinking about it. That's not. So we encourage them to, hey, have you ever thought about this? Not in a you have to do this way.
So okay.
That's showing them the scriptures, the Bible.
That's right.
Showing them what the Bible. We read scriptures.
Yeah.
But we're not going to tell them what to do. We're going to ask them questions.
Exactly.
How do you think this scripture applies to you? It's up to the person. They can make their own choice.
Exactly.
No one's forced to disengage.
Well, can you read Matthew? Another verse that they quoted was Matthew 6. Can you read 6:24? Because when it's going through this and it's saying sit down and read them. reason on specific scriptures to help him think about his dedication to Jehovah. I'm thinking that these verses are going to specify, okay, someone on why we should be taking these roles on in the congregation, and it should talk on that, on why we should continue to build up and do these things. And these
Matthew
verses
6:24.
Yeah, it's like fair.
No one can slave for two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will stick to the one and despise the other. You cannot slave for God and for riches.
Exactly. So when I read that, I said, "How this doesn't it doesn't even talk about accepting privileges." Now think if a brother is disengaged, now you sit down with me, and now you say, I can't serve two masters. So if I'm not accepting privileges, you're basically telling me I'm serving a different master.
You think so?
You said that verse is not in context?
No, that's in context.
So do you understand what I'm saying? So if I'm a disengaged brother and you want me to accept a privilege in context, and you
let me see what the hold on. Go back to what the context was there. Yeah, I think that, here's the problem, is that you're looking at this on paper. You're looking at how you feel like it would be handled. What I'm telling you is how it is handled. There's a difference there. Okay? I'm not trying to say that, but what I'm telling you is that I would never, and no elder, because we have all of these training and all of these things, would never sit down with a disengaged brother and say, you need to qualify for privilege. You need to be a ministerial servant. You're not, I think there's a level of that, okay, you're doing great, but I think, you have even more potential. So continue to make your advancement manifest. Yeah.
It doesn't say that. It says to ask him, remember what you promised when you dedicated yourself to him. So if I'm a disengaged active member in the congregation, and it's because I have different goals, I'm different goals, and you're an elder, and you come and sit me down, and you read to me, and I don't want to accept duties right now in the congregation, and you read Matthew 6:24 talking about serving a different master. How does that encourage me?
Well, no, I wouldn't read that, first of all. In that situation, that would make no sense. No, it's just talking about how we have to be whole-souled to Jehovah. I wouldn't imply in any way, shape, or form that you're serving a different master, okay? It might be, though, that there are reasons why a person's disengaged. It could be that, let's say they're missing a lot of meetings, so maybe they're spending more time on material pursuits and pleasure seeking, things like that. There's a whole list of things that could be, but I wouldn't be as harsh as what you're saying. I would never sit down and say, you're serving this master. Rather, I'd help you to appreciate, to give Jehovah God whole-souled service,
But when you're instructed someone, aren't you supposed to follow the scriptures that are provided in those articles?
None of that. Right, I have to follow all those scriptures? No,
I'm saying you would want to...
sure, I would read scriptures.
So I'm
Absolutely.
saying in any of these scriptures provided, there's none of them that encourage them. It's kind of like you're putting
But
faith.
that's referring specifically, that's making reference to a vow that someone's made to Jehovah. Their dedication.
That's what I'm saying. So we don't make a vow to accept a privilege.
So that's, again... Okay, now we're going
that's
on in
what I'm
circles
saying.
now.
Yeah,
Okay, you know what, Ryan? It ain't going to happen, man.
That's what
it's
I'm saying.
It's just not going to happen. Because I'm telling you the reality of it. And
But aren't you trained from these articles?
We receive scriptural training, yeah.
From these articles. So
well, not just that. I mean, everything that we receive. Sure,
yeah.
We're all trained from that.
Yeah. So you would have to use these scriptures.
The scriptures that you choose are very much tailored to the person, depending on what their situation is, what their needs are, what you've observed, things like that. But it's always encouragement. But I mean, we don't.
That's what I was reading through them, and I didn't find one that was like encouraging.
That's because it's you.
Well, that's
I know.
Yeah.
And if you were part of the congregation, these are scriptures we read all the time. It's in our meetings. It's in the watchtower, and the watchtower goes over a lot of the same information over again because we're not perfect and we don't remember everything. So we need to to keep being trained. And so the scriptures that are there, when we read them, or if someone reads them to us, we don't see them that way. Because we feel that we've dedicated our life to God, and it's just a reminder of what we are doing. We're like, okay, yeah, you're right. I would think. So brother sat down with me and said, Terrence, could you read that scripture? And I would be like, can't slave for two masters. And I'm like, you're right. Yeah, but I've been putting a lot more. It would make me think. That's me. But it's hard to say. It's like explaining the training that a gymnast goes through when you're not. Because the gymnast, it seems harsh. Are you serious? I have to do all that? What are you, nuts? But they're like, wait, that's going to make me better. Wait, get out of here. I need this because I want to be the best that I can in this. So we want to be the best we can for the dedication we made to our God. And it's only going to help us. None of the scriptures that Jehovah has provided for us are to hurt us. They're just to help us to serve Him. And when you're part of the congregation, it's not like they're anything new. These scriptures, like you're reading them and you're like, oh, yikes, that seems kind of harsh. That's tough. But when we read them, we're like, yeah, oh yeah, you're right.
If I'm an elder,
in this magazine, it was a congregation study. We studied it, the whole congregation. So when we're reading it and we're studying it, we're thinking about how it applies to us. So the elder not actually sitting down with every person going over this. We're all listening to the information. We're in a meeting. We're reading and we're thinking, okay, these scriptures, and we're bringing out points. We're like, yeah, it makes me think. So if we're disengaged, we're not emotionally attached to anything in the congregation. We're letting other things get in the way. But these things help us. When we are disengaged, if we attend the meeting that day, we start thinking, yeah, this is talking about me. It's not like anyone's telling us. We're reading it ourselves. Because someone's on the platform and we're listening and we're going over like, So we always think about the things for ourselves. So no one's actually sitting down with us telling us that. We're telling ourselves this. We're like, yep. Because we study it first before we go to the meeting. You look over your study before I come. That's what we do with this. We study this and then we go to the meeting. And we already know how it applies to us. And then when we go to the hall, we talk about it. We'd be like, we can, sometimes when we say can't slave for two masters, like sometimes, sometimes we can let work get in the way of spiritual things and not work that are 9 to 5, but additional things. Like, I took on another job because, I haven't been able to go on the vacations I really like. But it's getting in the way of my service to God. Those are things that they make us think, is that second job good? Now, can I slave for two masters? That makes me think that way. So it's not anything that's harsh for us when we hear these things. It's things that we read ourselves and apply to ourselves. Sometimes the brothers will sit down with people, but it's not in a harsh manner. It's always in a loving manner.
That's what I'm saying. If I'm an elder and I sit down with a brother disengaged,
but these Watchtower studies are for the whole congregation, and the whole congregation benefits from it. Men, women, kids. We're all sitting down. We're listening, and we're seeing how it applies to us. Because we all want to do our best. And that's what
I'm saying. All those scriptures were it was all fair, and it was not one loving, one encouraging scripture where it says basically study if you're in the faith or not. So it was like there was no encouraging scripture.
But that's what I said. I said it's encouraging to me.
So it was like
when I read it,
what scripture would you read in there that encourages you? That they quoted.
All are encouraging.
So if someone's not accepting
a position in there, and they take a scripture out of context and say you vow to do this and pay God what you vow to do.
It makes it. You know what it makes.
How does that encourage you?
What it makes you do, Ryan?
It refocuses you.
Yeah.
Because it means if you're disengaged, it means your focus is not where it should be.
Yeah.
And just like a doctor may need to set a bone that's disengaged. Is it going to be pleasant? Is it going to feel nice while it's happening?
No, but not everyone is supposed to be in leadership though.
No,
and that's
people
why
are stuck on that one. And I just think that it's
that's what the whole article was about though. It wasn't about this member or that member.
But you know what? The whole
members.
congregation learns about everything. It's not like a secret society where there are a select few that are picked to be lorded over other people. We're a congregation. We're family.
Exactly.
And
what did Jesus say to Peter when Peter suggested that this was not what would happen, that he would die? What did he say? He said, "Get behind me."
Satan, you're looking at it from.
I think that's a little harsh.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Do you think Peter got the point?
Yeah,
he did. He got the point right away. He would have said, "Oh." So there are times, even in the congregation, where Terrence is he's disengaged, okay, and I read him that scripture, and we say, Terrence, read that scripture, and like he even said, serving two masters. Instantly, he goes, "Okay, I get it now. I get it. That I need to be focused on serving the right master. I'm not saying, Terrence, you're a terrible person. Jehovah hates you, but sometimes that's what we need as a parent. Same thing with your children. Sometimes you have to say things very clearly, and that's how they get the point. Now, whether an encouraging scripture could have been put in or not, okay, we'll that's fine. I mean, you can feel that way, and maybe you're right. These articles are not written by perfect men, and I'm sure you could read through them and say, okay, grammatically this could have been written differently and stuff, and that's fine. But the idea is that it's encouragement out of love.
So the conclusion is they disagree on my interpretation of the article, and they believe that I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not a part of the congregation. I think the article is black and white on what it's trying to say and how the fear that it's trying to instill in these people to not pursue, stuff because they believe Armageddon can come tomorrow, and how they used to put a date on it, but now they just say, "Oh, it's coming and it's near." That fear that they put into you, so you won't go to school, won't go to college, and that's sad. But like, comment, and share, and tell me what you think. God bless.